What if Apple's biggest product launch in years is about to become its most controversial one? For months, rumors have pointed toward Apple finally entering the foldable smartphone market with a device many insiders are calling the iPhone Ultra. But now, just weeks before Apple's expected September event, conflicting reports are creating one huge question. Will Apple's first foldable actually launch on time, or is it facing a last-minute delay? The latest leak suggests that Apple may still be struggling behind the scenes. According to new supply chain reports, production challenges are continuing much later than expected. Foxconn, Apple's longtime manufacturing partner, has reportedly been given complete responsibility for taking the foldable iPhone from its final engineering stages into mass production. That alone is significant because Apple usually divides manufacturing across multiple partners. The fact that Foxconn is reportedly handling nearly everything shows just how technically demanding this device may be. And honestly, that's not surprising. A foldable iPhone isn't just another iPhone with a larger display. Apple is trying to enter a market that Samsung has spent years refining. Every hinge, every display layer, every internal cable has to survive hundreds of thousands of folds without creating visible creases or reliability issues. Apple has never been willing to compromise on durability, which is exactly why the company waited so long before releasing a foldable phone. But here's where things become confusing. Over the past few months, we've heard completely opposite stories from reliable leakers. Some claimed Apple was experiencing serious problems with the hinge mechanism. Others suggested the flexible display supplier was facing manufacturing difficulties. Then, only days later, new reports appeared saying everything was back on schedule and Apple hadn't delayed anything at all. Now another report is once again suggesting production obstacles remain. This has created one of the most confusing leak cycles we've seen for any Apple product in recent years. So what exactly is happening? The answer may actually be simpler than people think. There's a huge difference between announcing a product and shipping a product. Apple could easily unveil the iPhone Ultra during its September keynote while still delaying retail availability by several weeks. The company has done similar things before with completely new product categories. Announcing the device builds excitement, locks customers into Apple's ecosystem, and gives developers time to optimize apps, while manufacturing ramps up behind the scenes. That means even if production isn't perfect today, Apple could still reveal the device exactly as planned. And according to most industry predictions, that's still the most likely scenario. Current expectations point toward Apple's annual September keynote taking place around September 9th, where the iPhone 18 lineup is expected to make its debut. Alongside the iPhone 18, iPhone 20 Pro, and iPhone 20 Pro Max, Apple could finally introduce the long-awaited foldable iPhone. Potentially branded as the iPhone Ultra. The real uncertainty begins after the presentation ends. Will pre-orders open immediately? Will the phone ship alongside the Pro models? Or will Apple simply say, it's coming later this fall? That's the part nobody seems able to agree on. What's making this situation even more interesting is Samsung's latest move. Samsung recently introduced its newest Galaxy Z Fold, featuring a wider cover display and a more practical form factor than previous generations. Many reports now suggest Apple's foldable could follow a surprisingly similar design philosophy, instead of using the narrow shape that early Galaxy Fold devices were known for. If those rumors are accurate, Apple may have intentionally waited until foldable hardware matured before entering the market, instead of being first. Apple wants to be the company that perfects the experience. That's classic. Apple. The company rarely rushes into new categories. It studies existing products, learns from competitors' mistakes, then introduces its own version with a focus on refinement, rather than being first. We've seen this strategy with smartwatches. We've seen it with tablets. We've seen it with wireless earbuds. And now Apple appears ready to apply the same philosophy to foldable smartphones. Another reason Apple may be taking extra time is software. Designing the hardware is only half the challenge. iOS has to transition smoothly between folded and unfolded modes, resize applications instantly, support advanced multitasking, and maintain battery efficiency across two completely different display experiences. Apple isn't just building a foldable phone. It's creating an entirely new version of the iPhone experience that requires years of optimization. Battery life is another major concern. Foldable devices have less internal space because the hinge occupies valuable room inside the chassis. Apple will need to balance battery capacity, thermal management, camera hardware, wireless charging components, and overall thickness without compromising durability. That's an engineering challenge even. Experienced foldable manufacturers continue improving every year. Then there's the display itself. Multiple leaks suggest Apple is aiming for an almost invisible crease, something consumers have wanted since the very first foldable smartphones appeared. Achieving that requires an advanced hinge design, improved ultra-thin glass technology, and incredibly precise manufacturing tolerances. Even a tiny production inconsistency could force Apple to slow manufacturing while engineers refine the process. That may explain why reports continue swinging between on schedule and delayed. Both stories could actually be true depending on which part of the production pipeline insiders are seeing. Some factories may already be preparing mass production, could still be resolving final engineering issues. Not unusual for both situations to exist simultaneously during Apple's product development cycle. And let's not forget pricing. The iPhone Ultra is expected to become the most expensive iPhone Apple has ever released. Premium materials, complex manufacturing, advanced display technology, and lower production volumes all contribute to significantly higher costs compared to traditional flagship smartphones. Apple knows expectations will be incredibly high. Customers spending that much money won't tolerate hardware flaws or reliability issues. That's another reason Apple may prefer delaying shipments rather than releasing an unfinished product. Quality has always been more important to Apple than speed. So, where does all this leave us today? Based on everything we know, the most likely outcome is that Apple still announces the iPhone Ultra during its September keynote alongside the rest of the iPhone 18 family. The bigger mystery is whether customers will actually be able to buy it immediately, or if Apple decides to stagger the release while production scales up. Either way, one thing is becoming increasingly clear. Apple's first foldable iPhone is no longer a question of if, it's simply a question of when. And if these latest leaks are accurate, we're closer than ever to witnessing Apple's biggest iPhone redesign in over a decade. The countdown has officially begun, and the next few weeks could completely reshape the future of the iPhone.